Hello, guys, and welcome to the Fabricio Day podcast. We're going to undergo a historical event where we hope to live stream and commentate on some of these fights from Combat Sambo. I personally, I like, I'm a bit of a fight nerd, so I like seeing the old school fights and I like seeing how people came about to be who they are today. So I've always been a fan of these guys from Combat Sambo or the collegiate wrestlers or the jiu-jitsu guys. Like I like watching their background and how they came about. I'm a particular fan of these guys. I'm a big fan of Ikram Aliskerov, actually. I've kind of, I wouldn't say I've followed his Sambo career, but I'm definitely aware of him. It first came to light because he had beat JLA says, good morning, Jay. He has 2 wins over Amosov. Amosov recently got beaten by Jackson at Bellator. But prior to that, no one had beaten Amosov. And he has 2 wins over him in Combat Sambo. So it's definitely a very interesting person if you into fighting to that level, I suppose. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start watching the fights and just commentating on the fights as we go along. I have Islam Makhachev, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Aliskerov, Dvalishvili, and Fedor Emelianenko. They're the three. They're the athletes that I have on there now. Cooper Marion says, "You watching any of the boxing tonight? Really recommend checking out Subriel Matias. Very exciting and talented as a pressure fighter. I may try and catch some of those cards, some of the card later on. I definitely won't be watching it live. My children run my life. So that's what I'm going to plan to do here. So I'm going to kick it off and see how we go. Please feel free to comment as per usual, and we'll see. I'm going to start off with Ikram Aliskerov. There are the rules of Sambo, right? I was going to go through all the rules, but then I think no, because we're just going to waste time sitting there looking at those things. So we'll start with Ikram Aliskerov and move forward from there. So we have Ikram Aliskerov. Let me just share this screen. Mate, this is a historical event for me on many levels, especially the sharing of the screen like this. Okay, share screen, and we are okay. 1 second, guys. And I would also like to credit Sambo FIAS for the video. They're the ones that provided the video. So thank you very much, guys, for that. And here we go, guys. We're about to start the fight. Okay. Okay, so it's Ikram Aliskerov versus in the blue, right? As you guys know, Ikram fights in the UFC. He's one of the top fighters in the UFC versus Batok of the Ukraine in the red. And we're off, people. We are off. Let me fix this again. Ikram, you can see his stance is still very similar to what he has in the UFC today. And it's one of the reasons I find Ikram in particular really interesting was because at first I didn't think his stand-up was that good. You know, he seemed kind of cumbersome. But now as I started to watch him, I realized his distance management is absolutely fantastic. And as you just saw the entry into the takedown a little bit earlier, his timing is superb. He reminds me, not just in his looks, but in the way that he fights, a little bit of an orthodox Islam. Nice kick by Batok then from the Ukraine. He goes looking for an inside low kick, does Aliskerov. See how Aliskerov manages to slide just out of the way of the shots, and he still does that in the UFC today. And he was very prevalent against Phil Hawes, who was by far the faster fighter. Nice entry into the single leg by Batok of the Ukraine, but great defense by Ikram Aliskerov. Aliskerov is looking for a throw. He's fighting for the grips. He's looking for a grip on the belt. You start to see the background of these guys and the level of these are basically amateur fights, if you will, even if they're pro combat Sambo, but they're still basically amateur fights, and you start to understand like these guys, some of these guys would have had 2, 3, 400 fights like this. So you start to see the background that these guys are bringing into the UFC or to Bellator or the top end. Again, nice takedown there by Aliskerov off a single leg, but he's caught in a guillotine by Batok. It's nice and deep, but now Islam has managed to pass the guard and get to the side. I believe that'll be points for Islam once they restart for Ikram. Once they start, he's gone to north-south. Now there is, I'm going to give a rudimentary explanation of the rules as I understand them, and please feel free to tell me otherwise, but this is a hold down. You get points for takedowns, for hold downs, and basically it's like the Ippon as well. Like if you can hold someone down for a given amount of time, you get points, and also you can win the whole thing. That's still his coach to this day, that guy that you saw. That's still his coach. So 6-0 is Ikram. Nice switch kick, and then a front kick goes looking for a takedown, does Batok, but Aliskerov manages to go into turtle. He's got, I believe, a wrist right on one side, lands some decent ground and pound. He's up by 6. There's 2 minutes and 16 seconds to go in this bout, and Ikram has done a fantastic job. Nice jab there by Ikram. It's nice takedown again by Ikram. I actually really like it. It's much more action-packed because it's such a small bout. You know what I mean? There's not much time in that bout. So nice ground and pound now landed by Ikram. These guys are high level, man. They're not, you can see their entries into the wrestling and that. They're not sloppy dudes. Like they can wrestle, they can grapple. I think they're grappling per se, like jiu-jitsu grappling kind of thing. Like it's not the best, as you can see. Like there's not that much time to work, but definitely the positional awareness as far as ground and pound and their takedowns and their timing on the takedowns, that is very good. Their striking as well. It's not the best, but the transitions here in what they do is very good. Attempted like a kind of scissor sweep takedown / leg lock did Batok, but just got punched in the head for his troubles. 1 minute and 22 seconds to go. The Russian mob is looking on. There is 1 minute and 19 seconds to go as, big throw. And I think that'll be it. That'll be it because I believe that'll be 4 points. Did you see that throw from Ikram Aliskerov? My Lord, that was a fantastic, fantastic throw. Wow. What a throw. What a throw. And this guy, the other guy that he's throwing, Batok, this guy's wrestling would be better than most of the guys that he's fighting in the UFC. I'm telling you this 100%. Ukraine is a high level of wrestling, high level of judo. Their Sambo players would be all good wrestler grapplers. That was a fantastic throw on a very, very good grappler. To throw these guys in this format, the guys that are ready for it, it's pretty incredible, you know. Look at this throw. Boom! And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. That is Ikram Aliskerov. One of the things I think with Ikram, if he does get his hands on you, he is going to take you for a ride. That's not an accident, that throw. So, yeah, no, that was fantastic. I really like this format. Let me just go. Yep, so stop sharing. I'm just going to answer a few of the questions here. Cooper Marin says, Cooper Marin says, I like a lot of the card, but Matthias is the guy, 100% finish rate, made multiple people quit in between rounds. Cooper Marin says, do they wear wrestling shoes in Sambo? They're not wrestling shoes. They're their own shoe. They're like there's a lot more flexibility and they're much more pliable than wrestling shoes. Cooper Marin says, feel like I haven't seen Ikram kick this much before. He's got very good kicks, man. He's got very good kicks, but what he has more than it, that's how he stopped Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes, he hit him with the right hand at the end, but he caught him with a knee and a high kick, or it was a kind of like a hybrid kind of thing. But yeah, he's got very, very good timing, that guy. HLB says they look like Power Rangers, possibly. Cooper Marin says real life Rock'em Sock'em robots. JLA says they get fight experience without it going on an MMA record. Fab, is there much difference between this and MMA, or only slight differences? No, they got more than slight differences. You know what I mean? It's more than a slight difference, but I think just watching it, and we're going to watch some more of them now, but just watching them, you can see that the ability to transfer that to MMA is not that big. It's probably, if you're looking to get into MMA, I would say it'd be one of the best bases for it. Just because of that transitional aspect. The only problem I feel that sometimes happens with sports like this, and you see it, because not all the combat Sambo guys are Khabib. You know, not all of them are Aliskerov. Not all of them are as successful as some of these guys. Not all of them can transfer that across, because the gi makes a big difference, man. You know, so you can be a guy that builds your game around that clinch work that some of these guys are doing, and so it makes a big difference with you being able to say, if you've got a judo background and you're able to throw your bombs and get in quick and grab the gi, it's very hard to get free. So it changes that angle. It is a little bit different in that regard. But I still think and the other thing I don't like is you can end up being kind of a jack of all trades and master of none with these kind of sports, because your striking could be lacking, your jiu-jitsu could be lacking, your judo might not be the best, your wrestling might not be the best, but it's good enough to get it done in that format. But that's not necessarily going to be transferable against a guy that's a very good specialist and can take you down and put you on your back. That's not going to help you. But it's definitely a great base, a great building block, and I like it. But you got to understand, a lot of these guys, their base is not combat Sambo. They started in a different martial art, usually wrestling or judo, and then they transition. Like Fedor Emelianenko, who we're going to watch now, if you don't know, was one of the greatest heavyweights of all time in MMA, for predominantly in Pride. But he's like definitely he started off in judo. He didn't start off in combat Sambo. He was actually a bronze medalist in judo at in Russia in the nationals. Give me one sec. I can't do these two things at once. This requires my utmost attention. So yeah, he started off as a judo player, and the level is very, very high of judo in the world and in Sambo. So if you do well in judo and you want to fight, then it's going to be a great base. But if not, yeah, I think you're going to struggle a fair bit. You know, it's because it's a different animal. You know what I mean? It's really, really a different animal. Okay, so we're off here. And the thing with Fedor, the biggest thing with Fedor, in my opinion, is his ability to move quickly and throw very, very, very fast hands. So here we have Ivan Krieger of Russia versus Fedor Emelianenko of Russia. And Fedor's in the red, for those that don't know. And we're off, yes. But Fedor has lightning fast hands. And that was one of the things that set Fedor apart in MMA in general, was his ability to throw his hands the way that he did. But he's a guy that added a lot to his judo, you know, to go into this. And then in particular, I think it was just his ability to move and box. And I think a lot of that's God-given as well. Beautiful low kick by Fedor in this setting, which you don't see as much. Nice inside kick. Ivan Krieger with a beautiful inside kick. Both these guys respecting each other's power. Oh, nice work by Fedor. Fedor's got the back now. He's in turtle, is Ivan Krieger. And they get to their feet. There's only a limited amount of time to work on the ground, but I think that's one of the things that makes the transitions so good for combat Sambo, in as far as putting your grappling and your striking together and then transitioning from standing to the ground. Cooper Marion says, you should watch Fedor versus Blagoy. I have seen that fight, my friend. I think it was Fedor's first loss in years before losing to Wadum. It was, my friend. It was. It was. Blagoy was the first guy to beat Fedor before Werdum. Nice shots by Fedor. Krieger is up. Now, this Krieger fellow is a huge man. Look how big he is, because he makes Fedor look small. Fedor's like a big guy, not a huge heavyweight. It's not a Francis Ngannou, but he's still a big guy. He's still 110 kilos. And this guy's a giant of a man. I think Fedor's going to leg kick him again. Nice. See, Fedor's hands and movement, his feints with his hands, his vision is superb. Nice right hand. That was one of his patented combinations, was the right hand left hook to a clinch. They're allowed to throw front kicks. Yeah, they can throw front kicks. Cooper Marion. Thank you, Randy. Thank you for coming out and watching. And Hassan Ahmed, welcome, my friend. Thank you for being here. Again, Fedor pouring and feinting with that jab and finds a home for it now with a little left hook. And there's the right hand following the left hook from Fedor. Fedor's left hook, right hand, left hook to clinch is his bread and butter. He's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Again, Fedor feinting. This thing that he does where he's like feinting and the guy's moving back, that really fatigues your neural system, because you're always reacting to what he's doing. You know, and it's very, very fatiguing. But Cooper, the shoes, they're very, very, very soft. They're very soft. They're like felt, like suede. They're very, very soft leather. Fedor kind of has an Alex Pereira stance and feint with your presence, knowing they'll be faster on the trigger. Yeah, absolutely. That's his thing. And the thing that he had on top of that is this. He'd throw that right hand, left hook, clinch, and then he'd get you in this position. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a wrap. He got him with that Kezagatami crush way before it got trendy. So, yeah, those judo guys like that, those positions are not pleasant. Nah, this wasn't Nadine Mazali. Welcome. This wasn't pre-Fedor MMA. I would say that this would have been around the time that Fedor was fighting in Pride. So yeah, that would be my guess on that. This would be around that time, because he fought in Pride at the same time that he was still fighting in MMA. And on that, I'm going to use that as a segue into a very interesting fight, which is Merab Dvalishvili versus Stepan Kobanov of Russia, and this was in 2019. So this is well into his MMA career, right? So this is not this is well into Merab's MMA career. And for those that don't know, MMA. Merab Dvalishvili is a contender at the bantamweight division, a very, very good fighter in bantamweight. He's got 2 losses earlier on, but thus far he's got some wins against some legends in MMA and some very, very good current fighters. So this is Merab Dvalishvili. He's in the red versus the Russian Stepan Kobanov. Cooper Marion says, just tiny little twitches while invading your personal space. You know who else did that very, very well? I'll tell you who did that was Nick Diaz did that really well, and it was almost imperceptible. He'd walk you down and he'd make you react, and you'd throw and he'd counter, and he'd had a great chin to go along with it. Okay, so this is actually a really good fight. This is Merab Dvalishvili in the red versus Kobanov in the blue. And like I said, Merab is a very successful bantamweight in the UFC. And he's got, nothing but wins except I think 2 fights in the UFC. One, I think he lost by a guillotine, and the other one, I think he lost by decision. But after that was early on in his career. After that, it's been nothing but wins. So let's have a look at this to get an idea of what the level would be like in of combat Sambo. And we're off, people. Stepan looking for some shots. They're both standing outside of each other's range. Merab sporting, I believe, a broken or injured nose. They're both swinging for the fences there on each other. Spinning back kick attempt by Merab and a takedown by Stepan Kobanov. Stepan Kobanov goes looking for the far arm control. Doesn't get it. Looking for the armbar, but now he gets the mount on Merab. Merab doing a good job of escaping back in a half guard, and he's putting up the shields. Stepan is doing a good job of squashing him with the head control with the left hand there. Merab trying to get underneath him and roll onto his stomach and try and get to his feet. Stepan is doing a fantastic job of controlling here, and he's already 1-0 up on the UFC contender. He's going looking for an armbar again, is Stepan Kobanov. What a start to the fight. So it's 3:59 into this round, into this fight. And this guy is like, he's putting it on him from the start. He's really going after him, is Stepan Kobanov. Dvalishvili, nice 1-2 by Dvalishvili, heavy shots. Only the jab seemed to land in that regard. Again, inside the clinch, straight away, tying up with the judo holds here. Looking for a foot sweep was Dvalishvili. I think you're allowed a headbutt as well, which would make it even more fun. 3:32, nice knee up the middle by Dvalishvili. Fantastic job here by both guys. I'm very impressed with Kobanov. Very, very impressed. You're talking about one of the best bantamweights in the world here in Merab. Dvalishvili goes looking for a takedown. Does Kobanov. Great balance by Dvalishvili. Dvalishvili is a very, very accomplished grappler in his own right, in as far as this type of style, like not this style in particular, but he's a judo black belt, but this kind of style in a gi, and I think he's an expert in Georgian cultural wrestling as well. Nice little foot sweep by Kobanov. What we're seeing here, guys, a very, very high level of grappling with takedowns with a jacket on. It's very, very high level, and it makes you understand why these guys do so well in the UFC if you've got this kind of level of experience coming into it. So it's 2-0 for Kobanov against one of the better fighters in the world at bantamweight. Makes you wonder how this Kobanov fellow would do in MMA. So it's 2-0. Inside leg kick by Dvalishvili. Oh, big throw by Kobanov. I don't think that was a nip-on. I don't think that was looking for an armbar as Kobanov as well. Yeah, it wasn't a nip-on because he kind of landed, it would be like a yuki in judo, like kind of landed on his side. Otherwise, if it was a nip-on, it's game over. But that was a beautiful throw, and the awareness and the ability to land on his side by Dvalishvili is fantastic. But you see this guy's the truth, mate, this Kobanov guy. But having said that, like we were talking about earlier, how much can he transfer this to MMA without the gi and whatnot? I don't know, because a lot of his stuff is very gi reliant. If you see the way he grips and everything, is very reliant on the gi. So he might be very, very specific for this kind of fighting that he's good at. Nice takedown again. I don't think it was a takedown per se, but still he got the better of it in that regard. He's looking for some heavy ground and pound on Dvalishvili. It has to be very heavy, I've noticed, for them to score it. One minute and 41 seconds to go. Dvalishvili's way behind now. He's 4-0. Nice. In goes Kobanov, and you can see how Kobanov already has the grip on the belt. He has an over grip on the belt. So did Dvalishvili. Dvalishvili goes looking for his patented single leg, and you've seen the success that he has with it in the UFC, and I believe he got him down there. I don't know how they score it necessarily, but he did get him down. That was a good job by Dvalishvili. And that's Dvalishvili's bread and butter. And you see it in the UFC when he throws his big bombs and then he hits that single leg. It's hard, Nudine. I'm just going to answer Nudine's question. So Nudine says, Merab's striking leaves a lot to be desired for here and shows how much he must have improved since he moved to New Jersey. Yeah, but this was in like 2019, dude. He was like well and truly living in the US. It's very hard to get good rhythm. With the striking with the gi, you know what I mean? So I think these guys, that's what makes them throw those big bombs. Nice takedown attempt by Dvalishvili, and rolls into a knee bar. Does Kobanov. I'm a fan of Kobanov. So it's hard to get tidy boxing and good hands going because he was well and truly already fighting in the US by then. That isn't to say that his striking hasn't improved, but it's hard to get a good rhythm with a gi on with striking. Like that, like boxing, where a guy can grab you and throw you, you know? That's why I say to you, there's things that I think with Kobanov would be hard for you to be able to just apply it back into MMA. And that's why the striking of some of these guys, which you are right, Nadine, I don't disagree necessarily, but a lot of the combat Sambo guys have that kind of striking because you have to throw big and heavy when you don't have the clinch, when you're not being clinched, when you're not being held, because you don't get the time to have good, tidy boxing. 22 seconds to go. Dvalishvili looking for some ground and pound here. He can't get a moment. He can't get the control on Kobanov. Kobanov is a beast, man. The headgear comes off Dvalishvili. Dvalishvili trying to land big ground and pound there. Really interesting, man. Really, really, really interesting. Seven seconds to go. Yeah, so you have to throw, when you're watching it, it does give a better understanding why these guys fight the way they do in the UFC. And it can be a blessing and a curse, but you have to throw heavy because dudes aren't. Yep. And that's it. He's going to ride it out. There's 3 seconds to go. Dvalishvili's trying to knock his head off, but Kobanov gets the win. 4-1 for Kobanov. Wow. You have to wonder how that guy would do. I do think, like I said, I do think though that his style in particular, and probably Dvalishvili's, which there is some truth to what you're saying as well, Nadine. Like there is very gi reliant with the takedowns, and I think that probably requires some adjustment when you're fighting in the UFC and MMA. Cooper Marion says, this fight makes me think about what Aljo and Merab probably look like in the practice room. I think nowadays it'd be a lot closer. And like Nadine said, and I don't think it would be just in the striking. I think there would have been a period of adjustment and having to put certain things in and take certain things out. Because whilst that style is good, it's great, there does have a lot of adjustment that needs to occur. Nudine says, by the way, Merab last fight against Peter Yan is still a bit suspicious. His gas tank was absolutely off the chart for 5 rounds of non-stop wrestling. Yeah, I think I can't say to you like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? We have to go until people test positive. And even then they get a 6-month ban. So yeah, I think, look, this is all I'm going to say. I'm just going to say, like, how do I say this? Yeah, I don't know if he's on gear or not. You know what I mean? Like until he tests positive, I don't know what to say to that. I think when you see something, I'm not talking about Merab here. I'm talking about anyone and anything. When you see something and it's unbelievable, what they do, it probably is. It's Oliver Ekman says if Jan had a gi on, then he would have won that fight. Jan would have lost it badly. Yeah, in that scenario, the gi like that makes fucking huge difference, man. Because as soon as you throw a punch, they can grab you. You're in range. They can just grab you, and it's not even like wrestling. Like you can just grab the sleeve. You know, the back of the sleeve. There's like a seam on the back of the gi. And you can grab that, and that's what gives you a really fucking good grip, and you won't like where the armpit is. So you throw a punch and you get in that clinch. It's not even like a Greco clinch, where Greco at least you could move you can start to frame and move back, and you're going to probably in MMA if you can make the space and you're both sweaty, you probably get away. But in a gi, the dude grabs you like that and then gets an over grip on the back where your belt is. You're going to be in trouble, man. You can't get out. So I think that makes you have to throw bombs. Um, Cooper Marin says Peter Yang hangs out in Thailand and Russia, some of the juiciest countries in sport. I bet he's on just as much as Merab. Yeah, and I'll tell you this though, and for my American viewers, I don't like to think, but the Americans get busted so much. They're pretty juicy themselves. Through says, "Howdy, Fab. What's your thoughts on Jack Della's potential moving forward? What matchup do you want to see next?" I think Jack Della, he has really good potential. You know, he's a very good boxer, and that goes a very long way in MMA. That's one of the things that like is overlooked in the sense of people talk about wrestling, but I think I've always said, even though like my background, I've always grappled, but my thing's always been like, if you can get a striker, right? If you can get a good striker to have just even good defense, like not just he trains defense, like you just train grappling, but if you get your grappling, you get a good striker and he gets his grappling to like a black belt level, he doesn't have to be Mundial's champion. If he's just like a good black belt and he can strike, he will break people in half, you know. And Jack's striking is very good. His boxing is very, very sharp. So he can go very far with it and he hits hard too. Cooper Marin says, "Oh yeah, no doubt America is juicy. I was more just pointing out everyone's juicy. So no need to put down Merab's performance." I have to agree with you there, Cooper. You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard for me to be like, oh, Merab, blah, blah, blah. I have no idea who's natural or not, you know. Like I said, anyone, I have my thoughts, and I could make a list, and my list would be fucking pretty close to right as to who I think is on gear and not in the UFC, you know, but I can't say that about people, you know, unless I fully know. Nudine says, "Is that why BJJ gi doesn't translate to world MMA, world to MMA no grips?" Well, I don't think it like gi jiu-jitsu itself. No, but the athletes that do gi jiu-jitsu can do really well because they're great athletes, and you still like the core of BJJ or judo or sambo, whether it's in a gi or not, is still like fundamentally sound for for fighting, unless you very very specific BJJ guy. If you're but that goes for wrestling as well. If you are a wrestler and you only wrestled for wrestling and you don't want to fight, then the intricacies in wrestling, like parterre and low parterre, high parterre, um, gut wrenching, like leg laces, all of this kind of stuff is that could be your move. You know what I mean? And that's not really applicable in MMA. So it just depends. Like if you're a gi guy that does, I don't know, fucking spider guard, that's your thing, and you pull guard and it completely relies on the grips and you fighting off your back or grappling off your back, then that's not going to help you in MMA. Like beyond your knowledge and movement, you know what I mean? But that particular style is not going to help you. That doesn't mean that and it's hard to argue this with people. People don't get this. That doesn't mean that someone that is good in the gi won't be good at MMA. It's not the same fucking thing. That's not what I'm saying to you. You know, it's just that there's particular things. If you're a judo guy and your whole thing is like you fighting the grips on the feet, you have no interest in MMA, and there's certain moves that you do that then that's your move and you win off of that, and it's completely reliant on the gi or 80% reliant on the gi, then you're not going to be able to transfer that to MMA. You know what I mean? Like if people don't understand what I'm saying, cannot help you. Let me see. So Oliver Ekman says, "Fab, my cat Sammy says hi. She also believes he beat Rob in VR boxing, which is weird because she's only 7 months old." Yeah, but people are students of history, man, and cats are students of history, so you know what happened there. Cooper Marion says, "Alex Pereira is like the bare minimum amount of grappling you need to make it as a pure striker. Not good, but enough to stall someone and keep himself safe for a round until he left hooks you." I'm going to push back a little bit on that, Cooper, because the thing that, whilst I don't think he's the best grappler in the UFC or anything like that, but he cops a lot of shit for his grappling. But no one has out grappled him to a point that they've been able to capitalize a win off or even close to a win off it, and so I don't think that he'd be very easy to hold down. I don't think that just his levers and his ability to use his levers and that, because even against Jiri, he did a very good job of blocking the biceps and avoiding getting hurt in the ground and pound. I honestly thought this. I don't disagree with you, but I'm just saying I'm push back on a certain points. I honestly thought Jiri, once he got on top of him, the way he got on top of him and the way he ground and pounded Glover and the way he ground and pounded a lot of other people, because he's got good ground and pound. He's got long reach. I think like an 80-inch reach does Yuri. And he fucking hits, and he hits hard, and he bases out. And I thought he's going to wallop. He's going to, mollywop Pereira from here. But Pereira did great job of framing and blocking the biceps and stopping the shots. Whilst he was never in trouble, whilst Yuri was never in trouble of getting submitted, but Pereira's knowledge and damage control of the situation was pretty fantastic. I was very impressed as far as that's concerned. Cooper Marion says, Justin Gaethje is a good example. I feel like heavily defensive wrestler, which doesn't really apply great to MMA for offensive grappling. It's 100% right. You know what I mean? And I think he was a one-time NCAA All-American, but he's not someone that would have taken that wrestling that he had and be a phenomenal wrestler like on the world circuit, for instance. But it would have been enough. It's enough for him to be a powerhouse in MMA. Nudeen Mazali says, Cooper Marion, there's a gym in the US where every fighter looks engineered in a lab. Man, there's a few. There's a few, And also, it's not just that. The fighters don't. This is what a lot of people don't understand. You don't have to look like a freak of fucking nature. Like, cyclists don't necessarily look like freaks of nature. So many of them don't. So many athletes don't. But the fact that you can train more than anyone else trains makes you, that's the thing that allows you to recover. Like the guys that are talking about, astronomical amounts of training that they do, then they're probably not clean, dude. Give me 1 second. I'll be back. Cooper Marin says, you mean most of them. I honestly can't picture which one you're saying, as I can think of some juicy boys out of most gyms. Like I said, I think when you look at people and their achievements and whatnot, and you think it really is insane, and I'm not being a hater, it's just a fucking historically when you see it, and this is the people that you know about. When you look at it historically, all those too good to be true things end up being too good to be true. And if you want to choose to believe otherwise, then so be it. You know what I mean? But when you hear, oh, this person's a freak of nature, he's this and that and blah, 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 yeah, it's the same deal, man. You wouldn't buy magic beans of fucking someone on the street. You're not that dumb, but for some reason, people fucking are dumb for other things. So Islam Makhachev, we're gonna look at his fight here. It's Islam Makhachev versus Valentin Beneshev of Belarus, I believe. And that's a fight we're going to be looking at very, very soon. Yeah, Beneshev from Bulgaria, I think, actually. Sorry, my mistake, from Bulgaria. Give me 1 sec. Okay. All right. I'm not the best with this technology still. You guys don't understand how difficult this is for me. But I'm fighting through it, guys. I'm fighting through it. All right. And we are off. Islam Makhachev is in the blue, and Benishev of Bulgaria is in the red, as we see here. So Valentin Benishev versus Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev in the blue. And we're off. The Bulgarian's a little shorter than Makhachev. Makhachev goes to work straight away with a front kick down the middle. Makhachev again looking for that left high kick. 1-2 down the middle by Makhachev. Makhachev looks to step in with that left high kick again, but Benishev was just out of his range. Makhachev feints with a kick. Front kick down the middle by Makhachev. Nice high kick by Makhachev. One 0 by Makhachev. Nice work by Makhachev's got this guy on ice skates already. Shows the left kick again, does Makhachev. Sprawls on a great attempt by Benishev. Benishev's in deep on a single leg. And you can see these guys can really wrestle, man. Makhachev takes the back, goes looking for the hooks and starts to land some ground and pound on Benishev. Benishev looks like he may have gotten injured. It was in deep on the leg. Makhachev sprawled on it, got behind. And I don't know if he gave him a dead arm or something. I don't know. But the guy looks like he might have torn his bicep or dislocated his elbow. Oh, he's out. I think that was a quick fight for all of us. I tried to pick some fights that I hadn't seen before, but I had seen the Konov fight before. But I try to pick fights that I hadn't before so that when I'm commentating it, it feels live. You know what I mean? Because I've seen some of the Sambo fights before. I looked them up on the net and that. But yeah, I think that might be the wrap there. This guy looks like he's injured. And best for us, this is their video I've used. So shout out to everyone whose videos I've used thus far. These videos are not mine. This dude's injured. I don't think he's coming back. Nah. Well, that was a quick fight, but a good fight from Makhachev. And now I will go to the last one, the main event of the evening for us, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm for sure there's no ladies watching, but I'd like there to be. It would be nice if there was. And then we have Islam Makhachev, Khabib Nurmagomedov. So we have Khabib Nurmagomedov here in his fight. It's Khabib of representing Dagestan versus Ibragimov of Chechnya. Not going to lie, I've seen this fight before, but still, Khabib was 17 in this fight, and the other fellow is 20, I believe. So very good, interesting fight, this one. Give me 1 second. I'll just bring it up on the screen. Okay. So we have Ibragimov versus Khabib, and we're off, people. So this is a very young Khabib. Very, very, very young Khabib. 17 years old. And we're off. And see, it's clearly Khabib, if you know what I mean. Like, he still looks like him, still moves like him. This is another thing, like when you watch people, like they still use the same. Nice takedown there. Ibragimov with a beautiful double leg. Khabib looking to get in. He's moving around on the outskirts of the fight. Nice leg kick by Ibragimov. Nice shots there by Ibragimov in the clinch. See, this clinch work is what I talk about, where it's very hard for you to. You can throw bombs, like these guys are throwing bombs in there, but it's hard for you to box technically because you can't get away from the guy once he gets the grips on you like this. And so it forces you to grapple. It forces you further than it forces you to grapple. It forces you to basically do like a kind of judo, if you will. And so we go back. Yeah, that clinch work, as soon as you throw it, look, you look at as soon as you see it, like they throw bombs and they clinch. And it just happens like, or they shoot. So you can see why their stand up looks the way that it does. And whilst, another thing is, whilst it looks wild from the point of view of MMA or the point of view of like a classical stand up fighter, it makes sense for this style of fighting because you throw the bombs, see, and you're clinching. So you want to throw those bombs because you don't have the time or the space to really be able to box technically once a guy grabs you. This Ibragimov can grapple, dude. He can really grapple. Look at his double leg. Shoots in on the double leg. Khabib sprawls. They're out of bounds. Jabs. I'll answer that in a second, Jay. I just realized what you were saying because I thought I didn't know who you were talking to. You know what I mean? um, so the knees in the clinch, and I wasn't going to talk about any fighter in particular. I'm not going to talk about any fighter like good, bad, or otherwise. I'm not going to put their name next to steroids, unless unless they've tested positive. But like at all, like I'm not even going to entertain like because that's kind of shit makes not good for people. You know what I mean? It's not a nice thing. Oh, big knee up the middle for Khabib. They're both in the clinch. I had no idea who you were talking to, Jay. I was like, well, I don't know. I don't fucking know what you're saying. Nice little takedown there by Ibragimov. He's in the open guard of Khabib. And see, there's a limited amount of time on the ground. So you can understand as well why some of these guys aren't necessarily that good on the ground, like that do combat Sambo. It's not all of them that are as good on the ground as Khabib or Ikram or Islam. No, there's kicks. Haven't you seen Khabib here trying to knock his dude's head off with the knees? And Habib ate a big leg kick off Ibragimov early in the fight. But I think both these guys shoot a lot. They're very wrestle heavy guys, not just judo throw guys. They're both, if you see, like, and that Habib is a shoots double legs. So I think both these guys are wary of that with their kicks. And back in the middle, Oliver Ekman says, "Oh, I just have my video zoomed. Oh, there's a big kick there, Oliver. There's a big kick and another big kick. He goes looking for it again to the legs of Khabib, to that lead leg of Khabib. See this clinch? Like, as soon as you grab each other like that, it's different. Aussie Man Cards and Collectibles says, "Hey Fab, how you doing, mate? Hope you and the family have been well." We have, mate. Thank you so much for asking. Oh, Khabib goes looking for a leg kick of his own. Yeah, so you can see you could go through your whole Sambo career and not be that good at jiu-jitsu and not even be that good at striking. If you hit hard and you've got good judo and good wrestling, you could go through your whole Sambo career and never have had to develop the other aspects of it in that way. So that's what makes it hard to transfer this to MMA at times. But definitely the bulk, like the core of it, is there for you to transfer for sure. You know, there Khabib shoots on a low single, but from very far away. And Ibragimov is a very good wrestler. He was able to see that coming from a mile away. He blocks a lead left hook from Khabib. Khabib goes looking for that shovel uppercut that he likes to throw, and Ibragimov is nowhere near there to be hit. A sturdy little fellow is Ibragimov. You can see how, like, how helpful though it would be to have this background, and the amount of matches and the amount of combat, because you got to remember this as well. Olympic freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, judo, BJJ, all of these, whilst they're great, you can be world champion and never been punched in the face ever. And that is harder to overcome, in my opinion, than any technical thing. If, like, getting hit is a very foreign thing, unless you're built a certain way, like that you can whatever, like it's very hard. Like it's very, very hard thing to overcome. I've seen good jiu-jitsu guys just play around like standing up, or wrestlers. I've seen good judo wrestlers and jiu-jitsu guys do stand-up stuff, like just playing around, and they're shit. They're shit. And the thought of even getting close to getting hit is scary to them. Look at these guys. Whoa, this is like a rugby fight. Just grab the jersey and go for it, boys. Inside, very good. Ibragimov defending that double leg so well, then goes for a double leg of their own, and they end up in the clinch. And I believe that's a wrap, and I believe that Khabib lost this fight. Just also, when we talk about like the level of grappling and the level of fighters, granted, Khabib's 17 years old. They say this is his only loss. I'd say it's his only loss on YouTube. He would have had other losses coming up. But it makes you understand, like, this is the depth of like fighters you have out of there. It's a very interesting thing. Going back to the steroid question, you're asking, Russia was busted for assisting athletes with their PEDs, and it also seems prevalent in many gyms. These days, is it safe to assume 90% of fighters are on the juice? How about here in Australia? I wouldn't be able to tell you the figures of people that have been that are. I can't tell you 90% of fighters. I would tell you that a lot of athletes in Australia and wherever are on gear. 100%. I would say that. I can't say to you which ones. I can't say to you how much of it. You know what I mean? I can't say any of that. So that concludes the fighting events for today. Happy to discuss the fights further and discuss this, what we're talking about now. But I can't say to you, oh, these guys, da-da-da-da-da. But, man, there's been, as far as like Russia assisting their athletes with PEDs, yes. But look up Balco and shit like that. Like that was like, whilst it wasn't a government funded program, but it was a big company in the US, and there was a lot of Olympic athletes from the US, if you remember, that got busted for that. And I shudder to think how many didn't get busted. And so, are there a lot of fighters on the juice? Yes, 100%. What about here in Australia? I would say to you that here in Australia, you'd have the same kind of thing, because financially as well, in Australia, we have access to other things that other countries don't. Like we could go and spend, like you don't even have to earn that much money to go and spend a month or 6 weeks in another country, in Thailand or something, and you live very, very well there. So then draw your own fucking logical conclusions from all of that. You know what I mean? So yeah, there are be a lot of Australian athletes on it. You know, I can't. Man, we've had whole football teams that have been busted for using peptides. You know what I mean? Like whole football teams, whole rugby league teams, the whole team. Look it up. I'm not going to say the name of the team or the athletes, right, that are on it, but look it up. Google rugby league team peptide suspension on Google, and it's going to come up, you know, or something of that nature. So you've had whole rugby league teams, whole teams that have been caught doing it. So it doesn't like, how would that surprise you that there'd be fighters or anything? Yeah. So for sure, fighters, athletes, all of that. Cooper Marion says Khabib has such strange reactions and movement. Always seems kind of spazzy until it gets into the grappling. Yeah, I don't think he's a natural striker. That's my point. I don't think, and he's not scared to get hit. That's the other thing. And he's not scared to fire back, but he just doesn't have the fluidity in his striking. He just doesn't seem to have it. And but his saving grace is that he can hit hard. He's got a good chin, and then he grapples. And his style of grappling is imposing. It's on you, gets a takedown, etc. Nudeen Mazali says, but it's still the closest martial art in totality to MMA. I would probably, you know, other than like amateur MMA, yeah, I would tend to think so. You know, I would tend to think so. The other one is, and you don't see it a lot, but because you don't see them transfer over when they're young, is Muay Thai. I think Muay Thai guys, the true Muay Thai guys that grapple, will have their grappling standing up and that, I think they will transfer superbly well to MMA, because they're basically those guys. If you ever been Thai clinched by someone that actually fights Muay Thai, right? Proper Muay Thai. Not he had 2 fucking Muay Thai, amateur Muay Thai fights and no. I'm talking about dude that's 50 fights into a Muay Thai career, full Thai rules, that knows how to fucking grapple like this. Dude, it's Greco-Roman. It's basically, it's not Greco because you can't double clinch in Greco, but like what I'm saying is it's that type of control. Like it's like a weird fucking, they'll wreck your life, man. So I think that if you were to get some Muay Thai guys that, you know, young guys that's, you know, they've had 100 fights or whatever by the time they're 22, 23, and they left then and they were top guys, they would transfer super well, you know, because there's so many active fighters in Thailand, you know, there's so many. So the cream really rises to the top. The problem is with them, it's the same as like with judo in Japan or something. Like they're not just great fighters because the style's great for MMA. This is the same as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil. There are so many kids that do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil. You know, the cream rises to the top. The problem is that if you're doing judo in Japan and you're one of the best guys, you want an Olympic gold medal, and you're probably doing judo for judo's sake, not for MMA. And if you one of those top guys are doing Muay Thai at 22 years old, you want to be Lumpini Stadium champion. You're not doing Muay Thai to fight MMA. Whereas a lot of guys aren't the best wrestlers. They're not the best jiu-jitsu guys. They're not the best whatever. They're doing that martial art for MMA down the track, which is a very different thing, you know. But I do think that Muay Thai be right up there. Like even seeing this in some ways probably more applicable, I would think, just because they don't have the gi and they still have the stand-up grappling element. Of course, they don't have the wrestle, like the same wrestle, and the Muay Thai guys would have to learn a whole bunch of different things in the groundwork and all of that, and double legs and this and that. But they've already got that crazy ass balance, and they've already got the standing up grappling component and the takedowns from the clinch and the strikes. And their striking in MMA without a gi is much more fluid than the combat Sambo that we just saw then. So they're both at that level, I think. I really do. Having said that, I think that if you were to say to me, what martial arts would you do? What martial arts do you think you should do? And I would say to you, you need to do takedowns and grappling. I see it as a whole. You have to wrestle. You have to do submissions. That's grappling. Otherwise, it's just wrestling or just sport BJJ. So grappling to me is wrestling and submission. So I put the two together. I would say to you, grapple, so you wrestle and you do submissions, you do BJJ. So grapple and box. They would be the building blocks for you, because there's a very big thing to being able to punch straight and having good footwork and being able to get in and out and having the vision to be able to throw punches, dodge punches and block punches and cover up and parry. Of course, you have to be able to kick. Of course, you have to be able to do Muay Thai. I'm not telling you not to do it, but I'm saying that is the core. And if you look at knockouts, by far the knockouts still, it's punches and will always be, so that's an interesting thing as well. But if you ask me, I'd probably pick Muay Thai, if it was the one sport, even over combat Sambo, I'd just probably pick that. If I don't have a jacket on and I don't intend to fight anyone with a jacket, I'd probably pick Muay Thai. It's just the grappling combat aspect of Muay Thai. If you've seen real Muay Thai, their clinch work is second to none. It's phenomenal. You're welcome, man. Jay. Cooper Marion says, I know he's doing it for the right reasons and he's a monster, and it just looks strange at times. He's talking about Khabib with his striking. Bodybuilding News says, I ghost wrote as Victor Conte one summer, laugh out loud, for his supplement company when I was in college. For real? Are you for real? Are you really saying that? Because if you don't know who Victor Conte is, people, he's the guy, he's the head of Balco Laboratories. So that would have been a real interesting thing if you did that. You know what I mean? Cooper Marin says, Victor Conte of Balco is still some people's coach. Can't remember who, but definitely some fighters. He's still involved in all of that. There's I don't want to go into, even you can look at, if you look into it a little bit, you'll see when Balco Laboratories got split, the head of this department or this went to be the head of athletics at a particular country, that has a lot of good runners, and another guy went and was a secretary to this or whatever, and blah blah blah. And I think do you think that dude got hired to go and work with this country's athletics program, and he was the head of Balco? Do you think he went over there for anything other than what he knew and he did at Balco? Do you think he went over there because of his fucking human resource abilities and they really liked his spreadsheeting? No, he went over there to do that. He's still doing the same fucking thing. It's incredible to me, and people just go, oh no, it's just fucking, he runs this fast or he jumps that high. That's fucking incredible. And the guy that used to work at Balco works there. That's fuck off, man. It just kills me. Cooper Marion says, I want to say something like 80% of pro footballers in England are diagnosed with asthma, as it lets them get for some fun PEDs. The thing on that, Cooper, is it's a funny thing, man, when you say that, because people do not associate performance-enhancing drugs with basketball. They do not associate performance-enhancing drugs with soccer/football. And you think these guys are endurance machines. They're fucking greyhounds. You know what I mean? Both those sports, man. The way the basketball players are, people just forget about it because you're watching on a screen. You're watching a guy, I'm not going to say names, but you're watching a guy that weighs, I want to say 115 kilograms, right? Just guessing, even more. Some of them even more. And he's way over 2 meters tall, 2 meters 10, right? This behemoth, dude, would be something out of a fucking comic book if you met him in real life. Granted, he is nature's miracle. I get that. That's not a result of steroids. But then if he's in the NBA, he plays an 82-game regular season. Try and fucking fathom what that is, because the season doesn't even last the whole year. So he plays an 82-game regular season, right? At the top end, this fucking monster is running up and down the court, backwards and forwards at full fucking speed for 82 games of a regular season, plus international games, plus all-star games. And if his team makes the playoffs and the finals, that's even more. That's even more. And the dude performs every fucking night. Maybe averages, I'm not talking about anyone in particular here. I'm just talking. Averages 25 points a fucking night, at least. At least. Plus maybe 8 rebounds and 6 assists. Maybe. I'm just making this up, right? And you're looking at this guy and everyone's like, this guy's fucking fantastic. Like, he's fucking fantastic. Like, it's incredible that he can do that. It fucking is. Of course it is. And then they get into like their mid-30s or like in their mid-30s. They've been playing this game since they're little kids, right? They're in their mid-30s now. They've been 12 seasons in the NBA doing this, right? Or whatever league, right? And people are watching that. And no one is fucking shocked. No one is shocked. And then when somebody else tests positive, everyone's like, oh, shit. I can't believe they tested positive. But I watch basketball and I watch soccer and those sports. And soccer's the same thing. You have your regular season in whatever country you're playing in the top leagues, where it's Serie A, Primera Liga, Premier League, any of these top end. You play in Bundesliga, you play your regular season, you play your international games. This I'm talking about the top end. You play international games, you play the friendlies a lot of the times as well. You play Champions League, you play the fucking Champions Cup, Tournament of Champions, whatever, all of these things, right? They'd be the same. They play over 100 games of a season, right? And that's not even over a year. That's in a season. That's fucking incredible, right? Plus training. And then you have guys that they're still playing in their 30s. And everyone's like, yeah, man, he's just fucking, yeah, like, well, he's just, have you seen his training regime though? Have you seen his training regime and what he does? And I think, buddy, come on, man. Come on. Right? That's my take on all that shit. So, yeah, bodybuilding says he's big in boxing now, talking about Victor Conte. Nobody says the obvious. Yeah, like, Nadine says, Khabib has a great chin indeed. Barboza landed a clean spinning kick and hardly affected him. Yeah, but it didn't land flush on his fucking chin. Like, Barboza would have killed him if that landed flush on his, like, boom, heel on the chin. It didn't land like that, but he does have a great chin. Joseph says, the answer is if you've ever been tie clinched by a pro fighter, is it fucking sucks. It's not like what people think, dude. Like, this is what makes me laugh. You go to a jiu-jitsu school, like there's such a narrative. I have a jiu-jitsu school, right? I'm the owner of a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school, just to give a disclaimer. But you hear people talking, and if I hear it in my school, I'm always like, dude, shut the fuck up. You have no fucking idea. Like, people go, you do jiu-jitsu for a year, and then like you can defend yourself. This fucking Muay Thai guy would fucking crack your skull open and go have a burger. You've never been in a fight. You've never punched anyone in the face. You work as a fucking data entry clerk at a fucking bank, and you do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week and just got your blue belt, and you think that you can fight. You can't fight, dude. An A-grade rugby league player is going to punch the fuck out of you. It would be a massacre. You have no idea. You have no idea. And a pro Thai fighter is that times 1,000. Like, you have no idea what that's like. You have no clue. And then they'll be like, I saw Rickson Gracie. You're not Rickson Gracie, dude. You're not Rickson Gracie. Shut the fuck up. You're not even close to Rickson Gracie. Don't even mention his name. You're a blue belt data entry clerk. You're not Rickson Gracie. You fucking idiot. It annoys me beyond belief. Or when people go like, did you see though when fucking Gordon Ryan, you're not Gordon Ryan. Don't even finish the sentence. You're a fucking idiot. When Pat Downey grappled Gordon Ryan, you're not Gordon Ryan. You're not fucking Gordon Ryan. Pat Downey would tie a leash on you and walk you around the stadium and fucking have you perform tricks for people. That's what he would do to you. Even if you're not like guys like Roman Bravo, Young, Bo Nickel, these guys that you see and they lose to like a Nicky Ryan or a Nicky Rodriguez, if they grabbed you in real life and you are Like me, if they grab me, right? I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. If they grab me, they would fucking break me in half. It wouldn't even be a match. People do not understand this. Like, you watch that guy, you watch Bo Nickel against Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan does that to other jiu-jitsu guys. You know what I mean? Sorry about my rant. It just fucking pisses me off when people don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. Cooper Marion says, how come we don't see many top Thai guys transition to MMA? Seems like they'd wreck shop. That's what I was saying before, but like, you got to understand, a lot of these guys, when they do it, they doing it to be Muay Thai champions. And in Thailand and in their village and where they're from, MMA is not as big of a thing. I think you're probably going to start seeing it become more of a thing. But if you ask them still till today, I'd say that the little Thai boys would want to be Lumpini champions, not UFC champions. You know what I mean? Probably starting to change a little bit, but it's still very ingrained in your culture. Like, if you gave a kid in Russia, probably even still to today, you said to him, you can be Olympic freestyle wrestling champion or MMA champion, they'd probably still pick freestyle wrestling. Same as judo or whatever, you'd probably still pick that. Like, it's a big thing that's ingrained in their culture. If you had, like, for example, a kid here in Australia that grew up in Southwest Sydney and went to school and had the opportunity to be a sprinter or play rugby league. And rugby league, it's not even, really. Now, people are going to say, no, we play it in England, they play it in New Zealand, and it's a fucking worldwide game. It's not a worldwide game. Shut the fuck up. It's not a worldwide game. It's really not even played Australia-wide. But if you're a kid in Southwest Sydney, right, and you could be a sprinter or be the best rugby league player in Australia, you will more than likely pick being a rugby league player, being fast and carving people up and blah, blah. You'll probably pick that because it's ingrained in the culture of that area. It's fucking embedded. So that's why I don't think you're going to see the best Muay Thai guys or the best judoka go over. Also with judo, like, the best guys are under contract. They can't go and compete even in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Bodybuilding News says, I am serious. It was on a website, RX Muscle. I didn't talk about that type of stuff, but I wrote as him promoting his supplements. They sponsored me for a year with supplements, which was a big deal as a broke college kid. Oh, he's a good promoter. That guy was the real brains behind Balco. He's like a chem genius. He also got convicted. Okay, so right, what he was talking about, Victor Conte, and he's saying the real guy behind it is a chem genius, and he was convicted as well. He wasn't. Victor Conte wasn't the brains behind Balco, so to speak. SG says, greetings, Fab. Greetings, sir. And Oliver Ekman, let him have it. Let him have both barrels, Oliver Ekman. Cooper Marion says, LeBron lost like 50 pounds a year. The NBA started testing for HGH. Wonder why. Cooper Marion, I was going to say to you, but I'm not going to accuse. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm not accusing LeBron or whatever. And that, correlation doesn't equal causation. And there isn't necessarily, like, you're not limited to having to use HGH. And I fucking tell you something else, man, right? I've been involved in high level sport a lot, and I've seen, like, how could I say it here? I'm not talking about LeBron, I'm not talking about the NBA or whatever, but there's been situations where, like, people know the testers are coming. Let's just say it that way. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Bodybuilding News says, Patrick Arnold, I Googled him. He's the genius. Yeah, the guy behind Balco. That's what he was talking about. Joseph says, Coach Fab talking about my basketball career. It's Joseph, guys. That's the freak of nature. He's nature's miracle. That's who I'm talking about. Bodybuilding News says, I used to talk on Facebook. He's got a different mind for PEDs. He's got a unique brain about it. See, interesting, very interesting stuff there. You know what I mean from it? But you got to think, like, people think Victor Conte. This is what I was saying before. Think of all the guys that would have been involved in that and think about where they are now. Do you think that someone like that Patrick Arnold guy, I'm not saying it's him, but I'm saying someone like that Patrick Arnold, and there'd be others guys like him in Balco. It wouldn't be like it was Patrick Arnold, Victor Conte, and one other guy. No, it was like a staff of people. Where the fuck do you think they are now? Do you think those guys leave now and start a lawn mowing service? No, they working out there with other national sporting agencies. Sorry to break the news to you. JLA says, puts things into context. Recently, the Chinese swimmer was hammered by the media, but at this point, it's hard to point fingers at others. I think so, dude. I think, like I said to you, like, you're kidding yourself. Bodybuilding News says Conte was the marketing guy, and he's a brilliant marketer. Oliver Ekman says, my teacher one day said that American football is the cleanest sport there is. I said, are you retarded? I then got into trouble. Why would he say that? Why would you even say that it's a cleaner sport around? SG says, it is interesting now that you mention if people gloss over steroid usage in every other sport except MMA. I don't think they gloss over it in other sports. I'm just saying to you, like, I think MMA kids themselves by saying they got testing. Do you know what I mean? I think MMA kids themselves with it, you know? I don't think I think it's prevalent in a lot of sports. This is in everything. Not only that, like you can go do a line of coke and then go and do somebody's taxes if you're an accountant, and nobody will say shit. You know what I mean? SG says, man, the first time I was in a Thai clinch, the claustrophobia set in real quick. You will feel like that if he just Thai clinches you. If you just like wrestling, Thai clinch wrestling, you'll feel like that. If the dude starts throwing knees and elbows in there, fuck, dude. Like claustrophobia is not the word, you know? It's not the word. Cooper Marin says, I love that The Rock still maintains that he's all natural. Makes me laugh every time someone's adamant that he just works hard. Look, don't get me wrong. You still have to work hard, but come on, buddy. Come on. HB Coma says, why is Vin Diesel so mad? I don't know. Nordine, I see what you did there. Nordine Mazali says, Mighty Mouse got battered for a full 5 minutes against Rod Tang. Yeah, dude, like that's like legit, like fucking animals, dude, that do Muay Thai. It's no fucking joke. Cooper Marion says, I'm just surprised we haven't seen any real top ties. Figured there'd be at least one, Izzy or Alex, that would make the transition for the money. Tons of kickboxers, basically no Muay Thai though. I think that like Rod Tang and that, but like I said, there's a massive thing. You have to understand that there's a huge. It's like, man, we would have really good combat athletes. Somebody just mentioned the NRL, like rugby league. We would have really, 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 really good fighters coming out of the NRL. If wrestling and grappling was our sport, and those guys that are in the NRL were wrestling and grappling. But if you ask kids in Southwest Sydney that are suitable for it, or even in other states, like really, man, they'd probably, for the majority, they'd want to play first grade NRL. They'd want to play AFL, you know what I mean, before fighting. JLA says, Mount Druitt Pro NRL or Centrelink, how dare you, sir? How dare you? Del 0015 says, the Fair One podcast, the IGF needs to let judokas compete in other grappling competitions. I'm going to push back a little bit on this, though, dude. You got to understand. Say, take Teddy Riner, for example. He's freak of fucking nature. How much money, though, would the French Judo Federation have spent on him, right, to be who he is today? All the camps that he would have done as a kid, all the international camps that he would have done to go and grapple somewhere else and get hurt, and also to bring views to that sport, you know. So I do understand where they're coming from, man. You want to protect your investment. When he's finished and he's done with the IJF and he's no longer benefiting off those projects and programs, go and do whatever you want, you know. But the level of guys that they have with IGF is pretty fucking crazy, you know what I mean? They've got some really phenomenal athletes. Like these guys that win Olympic gold medals or win the Grand Slams. high-level judo is ridiculously competitive. It's the most widespread, one of the most widespread sports after soccer, if not the most widespread sport after soccer. It's right up there. Like, and it's all over the world. Way more participating countries than freestyle wrestling. Sambo doesn't come into it, you know. Yeah, as a matter of fact, a lot of the guys that don't make the Russian teams go to Sambo. That's what I was saying before. Fedor is a good example of that. And so, like, why would they then go, here, we've prepared you, we've invested millions probably in someone like Teddy Riner in as far as everything that he is, go and compete in jiu-jitsu? Like, nah, fuck that. You wouldn't do that. If you invested like that much time and effort into anything, right? Like, you wouldn't I wouldn't build a car, right, and then let somebody else drive it if I spent my life's work on it. No way. SG says, what does the average Australian think about American football? I think honestly, like a lot of things in Australia, like Australia is like heavily influenced by American culture. So people watch the Super Bowl and that kind of stuff. As far as I'm aware, I I don't know what they think about it, but I know that people watch it. I know that it's very common for people to have a team that they follow and whatnot. And I'm sure like you could watch the fights on cable or whatever. So I would say to you, yeah, that it's like, I think people like it. I enjoy, like, I don't watch it per se, but I do enjoy like the tactical situation with it, like the way that it's approached, the tactical, and of course the level of athlete that plays it is phenomenal. JLA says, what martial arts are your kids doing? I was thinking of judo for my daughter, but not sure. I would put my daughter in judo. I definitely would. But in the early stages of fundamental building blocks, I would recommend that they do gymnastics and that they do a variety of different sports that are going to open the motor skills and neural pathways. So my kids, my daughters, so I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. It was my 4-year-old's birthday last week, and my 2-year-old she will turn 2 in a couple of weeks, and then my son will turn 1 a little bit after that. My 2-year-old and my 4-year-old, they both do jiu-jitsu, but it's not really jiu-jitsu. It's like a grappling program, but I wrestled as well. So it's like more, it's closer to judo than BJJ because we do a lot of throws and a lot of like tumbling and a lot of body awareness stuff. But my daughters both do gymnastics. And so and they swim. They do swimming as well. So I would strongly recommend they do judo, but more than anything, I would say gymnastics is number one for the kids. It's just overall great for building strength, great for building proprioception and body awareness and spatial awareness. Like overall strength, locomotion. There's like it incorporates everything that you need to then be able to take that into a grappling realm or into any sport, really. There's a quote, and I don't know if it was Aristotle or Socrates or Plato, one of them, that calls gymnastics the mother of all sports. And it is, man. It is. Like, it 100% is. If you've wrestled, if anyone did wrestling ever in their life or did judo, like, it's like 20% gymnastics, those sports. Like, any good wrestler can head spring and, do all of that kind of stuff. So I would definitely say gymnastics, number one, for your daughter, and depending on the age, but I would say gymnastics. And then from there, there's judo, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. And I think for girls, probably judo's the friendliest, safest option in an applicable martial art. I think why I say that is because the national programs are in place. It's the biggest grappling sport by far, and it's got a clear-cut path to the Olympics. And there's big female programs, there's a big female presence in judo. And you wear a gi, which I think is friendlier towards young women, and with developing bodies than wearing the there's body image stuff with wrestling. You're wearing a little leotard, even for boys. I think that's one of the when you're young and you're going through all the changes in your body. I think that's why I'd pick judo anyways. Like my daughters do BJJ. They do BJJ as like a common grappling program. There's takedowns. There's at the age that they are now, it's just games. It's just games, and just learning to sit still and watch and pay attention and listen to stuff. But if my daughters show an affinity towards grappling, which my eldest I don't think will. My eldest already, like, she does a music program as well, and she shows an affinity for that. So she'll probably end up doing that. The younger one seems like the devil incarnate. So she probably end up going to judo or something like that. If I had to go, all right, now you're going to do a martial art, I'd pick judo, like, for her. And then if she wants to do gymnastics thereafter, whatever, it's cool. Nurdin Mazali says BJJ or judo are safest options. Full contact martial arts are not too unsafe for kids with all the gear. Yeah, I just don't like striking arts to a developing brain. Like it's not. I'm not a big fan of cognitive impairment in kids. That's where I have no problem doing the mitts with my kids. With my daughter, kind of muck around with my eldest, like hold the mitts for her. We play box as well. You know what I mean, where she can punch me and we muck around. But I don't hit her. I don't punch her. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'll hold mitts for her or something like this. But I wouldn't put them in boxing or kickboxing or something like that when they're really little. Cooper Marion says gymnastics did more for my athleticism than anything else. Insane flexibility and body awareness that translates to everything. Spot on. Yeah, I agree. SG says, not sure if this was discussed, but the UFC seems to be an interesting situation trying to build UFC 300. Thoughts on that? I think them saying that they are trying to build it and they're having trouble just creates talk around it. I'd be super shocked if they don't already know, what they're gonna do. They're not dumb, dude. They're not. You saw this, man. I said this the other day. They sold out the Sydney card without a main event, And Sydney, I'm going to tell you, and it turned out to be a fantastic card and honestly, I'm so glad I called it live because it was like a truly great fight, I like not. It wasn't like Strickland ran over Israel. Like, that was one of the craziest fights I've seen because, like, I know what Israel's capable of. I know you can turn your lights out at any given moment. And so I watched that fight on the edge of my fucking seat, and they did not have a main event for that. When they started selling tickets or when they finished selling tickets. So do not worry. That will be fine, and it will be a cracker card. Joshua Kirstein says, I started the gymnastics at 5. Yeah, that's probably the best thing you can do, man. I wish I did. I would have been shit at it, but I would have still been better than what I am now. SG says, I think the wrestling weight cutting at a young age can be risky as well. You shouldn't be cutting weight at a young age in wrestling, though. That's just shockingly bad coaching. And yeah, you shouldn't be cutting weight when you're a little kid. JLA says 5 years old and used to do gymnastics. Better put her back in. Still does swimming. Yeah, I would put her in. I'd put her in gymnastics for sure. Yeah, and swimming. I think everyone should do swimming, but if you live in Australia, you have to do swimming. We're surrounded by water. We're surrounded by waterways. We're surrounded by swimming pools. They're going to go to parties where there are pools. You don't want your kid drowning. I live like right next to the ocean. My neighbors have a pool. My kids have to swim. They don't like going to swimming classes, but I don't give a shit. They have to swim. Cooper Marion says, you're not the biggest fan of my dad putting me into Taekwondo at 5. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I did Taekwondo from 5 years old. I definitely remember getting my bell rung as a small child, and that kind of helped me. I agree. Bodybuilding News says there's been studies about NCAA wrestlers having the most head injuries of all college sports. I believe that. That's after more than a decade of training to get there. I definitely puked and thought it was from training very, very hard at wrestling practice. Only years later, I realized, oh, wait, I definitely had a concussion. Yes, it's interesting that you say that. It was about Bodybuilding News. You're in my head today, brother. I was going to say the same thing with, I've seen fucking morons train people in judo as well and throwing the kids without a mat, without a crash mat, right? and going, no, and the kid's going home with headaches and going, no, you have to get better at your break falls. And it's like, nah, dude, you don't have to fucking throw people that fucking hard on the mat. You do unless there's a crash mat, because you're going to get a concussion. And I definitely think, especially in those NCAA programs and that, where the culture around Olympic freestyle wrestling is like very like, go hard, go home, and fucking wrestle and blah, blah, blah. And because they got so many people vying for these very few coveted scholarship spots, like it really does just mean the cream rises to the top. So no, I definitely agree with that as well. And that as well is why I would say to you, do gymnastics first, so you understand exactly what you're getting into with the falls and whatnot, because it is fucking dangerous, man. And you definitely, like, the falls and the shots you take in judo and wrestling, yeah, they will fuck up your brain if you are at the wrong place and these guys are just smashing you. You know, the other sport as well is the soccer, football, soccer, whatever you want to call it, with the headbutting in certain positions. Your job is to headbutt the ball at full fucking pelt. Now, if you think that that guy, the first time he's headbutted the ball is in a real game, you're out of your mind. That dude would have been headbutting the ball. Because I remember headbutting the ball when I was little. My background in South America, and so from my dad's from Uruguay. And so I played soccer always. I can't remember starting to play, to be honest with you. I wasn't particularly good, but I played soccer until I was 14 or 15 or 13 or something. And like, I was better than the average kid, but it wasn't my thing. My cousins ended up playing professionally, a bunch of them. But I remember headbutting the ball as a little kid and getting headaches and something, because I've always been risk averse person rather. Some people just call it being a pussy. But I remember, man, just feeling it. I was little, like I would have been 5 or 6 and going, nah, that's fucking stupid. I'm not headbutting the ball anymore. And obviously that would have done wonders for my soccer career. I have a little head too, so that wouldn't have helped. But no, I could feel it, that it wasn't healthy. And I just didn't even think about doing it. Of course, I remember back then as well, nobody gave a shit about concussions or anything. This was like in the 80s and that. So nobody gave a shit. It was like, you're a pussy if you don't headbutt the ball when somebody boots it in a free kick. And still to today, people cheer that you headbutted that ball. And I think that would be worse than getting punched fair in the fucking head. Because you're not even like, if you get punched off someone, you're kind of rolling with it or moving, trying to avoid getting hit. If you headbutt a ball, you're like full, like, taking the impact. So, yeah, there's sports where you just socially, it's okay. Like rugby league, bad for you, bad for your brain. Boxing, wrestling, judo, bad for your brain, blah, blah, whatever. Soccer, we've decided it's okay for your brain, and it's fucking not. SG says paddleball is a new cool kid sport, minimal athleticism. I'm not aware of it. Don't know about it. Cooper Marin says feel like the dehydration from weight cutting probably adds to the concussions. It 100% adds to the concussions. Further to the dehydration is the rehydration, because you can dehydrate and make the weight. You can pretty much make any weight you want, within reason. But it's rehydrating appropriately to be able to get back and compete. And that is the hardest thing. That's probably one of the worst things that adds to the concussion and the brain trauma when you're thinking about rugby, like rugby in any form, and I'm including American football in this, obviously has head knocks. But sometimes you're playing in extreme heat, and that would make it even worse. And again, I double down on the soccer thing. You're playing under extreme heat a lot of the times, you're dehydrated, and then you're taking massive shots to the head. When that ball gets kicked hard or really high and you clear it with your head, it fucking is doing some damage to you, dude. And you will headbutt that ball a few times in the game depending on your position, and you would have done it countless of times in training. You probably get hit more than you would have if you boxed, man. It's crazy. Jay says, was talking to a family friend who was suicidal a few years ago. She used to play AFL and So I told her about concussions being related to depression. She had no idea and remembers headaches every game. Yeah, believe that. I'll tell you something else. On the podcast, on this podcast, on my podcast, you can see the podcast I did with Willie Tonga. If you look up that podcast, Willie Tonga, on my thingo, he talks about it, man. And he's been knocked out like 70 times. It's insane. SG says, say jet ski and horseback riding is enough to give you CTE. Yes, and you got to understand, it depends to what extent and how often you do it. I don't think if you go horseback riding, you're going to be, I'm fucked. I can't think, but yeah. Cooper Marion says, headbutting a ball is probably actually worse for you than banging your head into the wall, as you get all the extra momentum coming at you. I think it's the repetitive times that you do it. Like, I've been punched, I've been hit in the head, I would say definitely more times than is healthy for you, for sure. And it's nowhere near how many times people that fight or play rugby league have taken head knocks. And even then, like I know it's not good for you. That's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah. Joshua Kirsten says, great conversation, Fab. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I really had a good time. If you haven't already, guys, like and subscribe to the channel and share it. Cooper Marion says, construction workers who work the jackhammer end up with CTE really often, apparently. Yeah, anything that shakes your head like that is incredibly dangerous. I don't know how people can't draw these fucking relationships to it. Oliver Eckerman says, Fab's been sparking people since 1973. Wasn't born. I was born in 1980, man. I was born in 1980. How old do you think I am? Guys, thank you so much, man. I had a lot of fun. Please join me again on Tuesday. We'll be doing some lies, dirty lies, and statistics. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate this. And please like and subscribe and share the channel if you haven't already. Take care, guys. I will watch the Matthias